And I want to irritate all the right people, all the people that we all find uniquely irritating. And it's this permanently offended, snowflakey, cancel culture mob who descend like a pack of hornets on anything they can get themselves into, trying to suppress everyone's right to an opinion, trying to tell us all how to think, how to act, how to laugh, what to find funny, what statues to revere, what parts of history are acceptable, what parts aren't, and so on.
Piers Morgan has become one of the loudest voices in today's culture war, and he's not holding back. Whether you love him or hate him, you can't deny he's a wrecking ball aimed straight at woke culture. It's almost impressive how boldly he tackles the topics most people avoid: gender debates, Hollywood hypocrisy, and cancel culture chaos, with a full-throttle style that leaves no room for hesitation.
That Hollywood loves nothing more than telling the rest of us how we should live and how we should think. It's heavy on the preach, light on the practice. This week's stars and supermodels flew in on private jets, taking a very well-earned break from hectoring us about their carbon footprint. Attention for detail for the Met Gala in New York, and what is now routinely a nauseating annual romp of tone-deaf extravagance became a glistening exhibition of Hollywood hypocrisy.
Let's be honest. We all know the kind of people Piers loves to provoke. The permanently offended crowd. You know them, always outraged, always ready to cancel anyone who dares to think differently. They swarm in like hornets, trying to silence opinions, control what's funny, and decide which parts of history we're allowed to admire. Yeah, those people. But here's what sets Piers apart. He simply doesn't care. He's not scared of being canceled or hated. In fact, he wears it like a badge of honor. Every time he pushes back, he's exposing the madness that's become rare to see in entertainment and media. Take his infamous stance on gender identity and sports, a classic Piers moment. He dropped one blunt, almost absurd question. Can Erling Haaland, one of the world's top male soccer players, just declare himself a woman and join the women's leagues? Haaland, standing 6'4" and built like a goal-scoring machine, it sounds ridiculous, right? Yet by woke logic, if he claims he's a woman who's allowed to disagree?
Can Erling Haaland, if he says, I now identify as a woman, play in the Norwegian national women's team?
City. Massive.
He's the best striker in the world. He's
City,
6'4".
yeah.
He's a massive beast. He scores goals every 10 seconds in the men's game. Are you happy?
If you suddenly decided to become trans, to go through all of the horror.
Actually, you don't have to go through anything.
Just stuff I need.
No, you go through nothing.
He self-identifies as trans. He deals with all of the pushback on social media, the death threats, everything that he's going to get as a result of that, and then says, I want to become a woman, I want to identify as a woman. Then, you know, the team would be able to legitimately make a decision as to whether or not that was allowed to happen.
It's a perfect example of how the woke crowd insists that anyone who identifies as something automatically gets to be that, no questions asked. Piers tore that idea apart. He argued that letting biological men compete in women's sports doesn't just bend the rules, it destroys them. It erases decades of hard-earned progress in women's athletics. And here's the kicker. This version of inclusivity isn't fair. It's a direct strike against true competition.
You have just endorsed Erling Haaland playing women's football, which of course would destroy women's football. Congratulations. Women's rights nil.
I didn't.
But look.
I didn't know who Erling Haaland is. I didn't know he had the power to destroy women's football.
Biological matters, right?
Yeah.
And men, born as men, shouldn't be playing women's sport. Rapinoe, free speech. What's wrong with that?
Piers wasn't just tossing out hypotheticals. He pointed to real-world examples, like Leah Thomas, the transgender swimmer who went from an average male competitor to completely dominating women's swimming.
We're going to look back on this period of the existence of planet Earth and think, what the hell were we doing? How was this insanity being allowed to happen? And it'll probably culminate in a 6'6" transgender athlete winning the 100 metres women's race at the Olympics by about 50 yards. I mean, that's what's going to happen.
Thomas broke records left and right, igniting outrage among female athletes who suddenly found themselves competing against someone with a clear biological advantage. Let's be honest, this isn't inclusivity, it's absurdity. And Piers said what many were thinking, but too afraid to say out loud.
Who, as we just heard, was not just the tallest boy in her college when she was competing as a biological male, but obviously the tallest girl as well. How can any of this be fair?
But it gets even better. There was one interview Piers did that might go down as one of the most jaw-dropping moments in modern debate. In the middle of a fiery discussion about identity politics, Piers, in peak form, asked, "Why can't I identify as a black lesbian?"
Okay, why can't I identify as a black lesbian?
Well, firstly, I mean, it was...
I'm serious. I'm serious. If I can identify as anything without any need to prove I'm actually what that is, why can't I, on International Women's Day, say, I'm Piers Morgan, I'm a black lesbian?
I think taking it to a kind of absurd status...
And yes, he was completely serious. The moment that question hit the airwaves, you could almost hear the collective gasp from the woke brigade. His opponent was left utterly speechless.
It's not difficult, is it, Angelica? I mean, that is what a woman is.
I mean, I don't know why you're obsessed with defining it. Like, what is a man? Like, why do we need these arbitrary...
A man is a male, adult human. I mean, that's it.
Right, OK, I don't know that we need
these are just biological facts, but they're just facts. They're not...
Think about it. If identity is completely subjective, if anyone can claim to be anything without proof or limits, where does it end? Piers wasn't mocking those who genuinely struggle with identity. In fact, he's made it clear he respects people who go through real transitions. But what he can't respect is someone waking up one day, deciding to be something else, and demanding that everyone pretend it's true. It's a slippery slope, and Piers made sure the world saw just how absurd it can get.
So this has become a big thing, right? Along with the question, what is a woman? There's now a big debate where British political leaders have been asked about whether a woman can have a penis, given varying answers. The British Prime Minister says no. The Labour leader says 99% of women do not.
And speaking of absurdity, let's take a moment to talk about Hollywood, the very symbol of hypocrisy. No industry loves preaching more than this one. They tell everyone else how to live, how to think, and how to save the planet, all while flying around the world in private jets. Piers called out that double standard loud and clear, using the Met Gala as his perfect example. Celebrities arrived in dazzling gowns, fresh off their luxury flights, lecturing the world about climate change and carbon footprints. The irony couldn't have been thicker, but Hollywood's hypocrisy doesn't end there. Remember when Disney decided to remake Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and thought it was progressive to cut the dwarfs entirely? Piers didn't hesitate to call out just how ridiculous that was.
The people who, it seems to me, have really suffered in all this are the 6 dwarf actors who would have expected to have roles in this remake in a massive Hollywood blockbuster, who are now not going to have that experience, or the money, or the fame that may have come with that. What is your response to that?
Instead of supporting the dwarf community, Disney's move actually took away one of the few iconic roles written specifically for dwarf actors. It's one thing to talk about inclusivity, but this wasn't that. It was virtue signaling at its worst. Disney thought they were doing the right thing, yet ended up angering the very community they claimed to protect.
Utterly agree with you. And the irony is that they profess, these progressives, to want to do this to protect you, right? They protect dwarf actors from being, somehow smeared. But you don't feel that way at all.
Peter Dinklage spoke up about this, and that was my issue. He had, in the past, no issue cashing checks that were made for dwarf roles like Elf and all of that. Yes, he blew away the barriers when he did his roles that weren't necessarily made for a dwarf. But the Elf role was made for a dwarf. That check cleared just fine. So now that he's gone and done that, the progression of dwarf actors, it doesn't sit right.
Piers didn't hesitate to call them out, slamming Disney's move as a total flop disguised as progress. And speaking of flops, Madonna. Piers has never been one to hold his tongue, and after her Grammys appearance, he went all in. Her drastically new look left audiences baffled, and Piers didn't sugarcoat it. He said she looked ready for Halloween. Brutal, right? But he didn't stop there. He called her an old joke, a harsh take, though, let's be honest, not one that's entirely uncommon these days.
And when I saw these pictures, I once again thought, my God, what has she done to herself? But B, the constant attention sinking. She was making horrible signs with Sam Smith. She was doing all sorts of stuff as normal, the normal attention seeking. And the act doesn't play when you're in your mid-60s.
Madonna didn't take it quietly. She fired back on Instagram, accusing Piers of pushing ageism and misogyny. She argued that society is quick to dismiss women once they reach a certain age, while men get a free pass. And in some ways, she had a point. But Piers wasn't backing down. He reminded everyone that every time he'd met Madonna, she'd been, in his words, a rude little madam. Their feud became the perfect example of how even celebrities aren't immune to Piers's brutal honesty. But beneath the drama lies the real reason he goes after these issues. He believes woke culture isn't just irritating, it's dangerous. To him, it's no longer about equality. It's evolved into a kind of social control, where people are told exactly how to think, act, and speak, or risk being cancelled. He's even compared it to fascism. And while that might sound extreme, it's hard to ignore his point. Free speech is under fire, and people are growing afraid to speak their minds for fear of being shamed, attacked, or erased by the woke mob.
The world has moved from being woke
right, okay,
by the original. I think that most people in the 60s, 70s, and 80s wanted to see better racial equality and social equality. Most people. But that's what the original definition of woke was. The modern day woke is nothing to do with that. The modern day woke is a form of fascism. Okay, so you will abide by our rules or you get destroyed. That's the difference to me.
And here's the real kicker. Social media is making everything worse. Algorithms now feed people only what they want to see, trapping them inside echo chambers where everyone believes their view is the only right one. Debate has vanished. All that's left are shouting matches and online dogpiles against anyone who dares to disagree. Piers argues this isn't progress, it's regression. Instead of building understanding or unity, woke culture is driving society deeper into tribalism.
Related society, where consensus, where you reach points of agreement through debate, and you don't try and shame or cancel each other for having different opinions, because that's at the core of this. They call themselves liberals. They're not liberal. Liberalism isn't about an inability to tolerate other opinions. It's the opposite. Right? You're supposed to tolerate and respect other opinions.
At the end of the day, Piers Morgan isn't taking shots at celebrities or political correctness just for attention. He's making a larger point about where society is headed. If we keep going down this path of forced thinking, we risk losing the very things that make democracy work: free speech, open debate, and respect for different opinions. And Piers? He's not about to let that happen without a fight.
Not that she even agreed with my opinion, just that I was entitled to one. That, in that moment, said to me how ridiculous this culture has got. Ridiculous. And I'm delighted that Sharon is now going to be back on Talk TV in the UK, in the show after mine, on a show called The Talk.
Whether you agree with him or not, Piers Morgan has become a force to be reckoned with. He's unafraid to take on the woke crowd, call out Hollywood's hypocrisy, or challenge anyone trying to silence free speech. And honestly, it's refreshing to see someone speak the words most people are too afraid to even whisper. So, what do you think? Is Piers Morgan a voice of reason in a world gone mad, or just someone who loves stirring the pot? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more bold takes like this.